a finalist for the 2018 Iditarod Teacher on the Trail. The decision to reapply is not only an attempt to fulfill a dream of mine, but it's also an attempt to model that growth mindset that I worked so very hard to instill in the students that I teach. I want to show them that it takes large amounts of perseverance, deliberate practice, and even a healthy dose of failure. Indiana students are accustomed to hearing, "Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines," but not in our classroom. In our classroom, it's more like, "Ladies and gentlemen, harness your dogs." My students and I brainstormed some ways that we would introduce the importance of the Iditarod in the classroom. They thought it would be best to show some mandatory items on the sled, so here we go.
Mushers need a proper cold weather sleeping bag weighing at least 5
Lily's
pounds.
right. A sleeping bag is a mandatory item on each musher's sled, and they unroll it for a good night's sleep. However, here in the classroom, we teachers unroll or unpack the standards in the state of Indiana, all 167 of them. You know, at the winter conference this past year, at the ExxonMobil reception, I really took to heart the guest speaker's message, and she talked about the glaring need for those STEM-related careers, and that we really need students prepared to fill those voids right now. And honestly, never have I felt such confidence with unpacking those standards as I do with the Iditarod in the classroom.
They are also required to carry an axe at least 22
Yes,
inches.
on the sled, mushers are required to keep an axe to clear any obstructions that might show up on the trail. It's much the same in the classroom. Because the content is so highly engaging, I really don't have a lot of disruptions due to behavior. And honestly, I know that's because the students are completely engaged in the learning that the Iditarod gives
They
them.
must be willing to carry promotional materials for the race.
Promoting the race in the classroom is a very easy task, but I would take my role as teacher on the trail very seriously. I'm keenly aware of the ambassadorship that goes along with this wonderful program. At this year's past winter conference, I got to see firsthand the hard work of the teachers on the trail of promoting the race. It was astonishing to me to see that there were 23 states across the United States represented at that conference. As teacher on the trail, it would be my goal to continue that very type of momentum and to continue.
They must have snowshoes for themselves and at least 8 booties per dog on the sled.
Ah, snowshoes and booties. These offer protection for the sole, S-O-L-E. However, in the classroom, I like to think about the Iditarod as being a tool for teaching those many character traits, or life skills as we call them here at Liberty Elementary, that are so very important because they are good for the soul too, the S-O-U-L.
Mushers must also carry a cooker
On the
and a
trail,
pot.
it's a cooker. But in the classroom, we as teachers sometimes feel as if we're in the cooker, a pressure cooker to be exact. Teaching the Iditarod is just not one more thing, like a lot of people erroneously believe. It actually, for both me and my students, it's a welcome respite. You see, in the state of Indiana, my third graders, for the very first time, are taking those high-stakes standardized tests, and it actually falls during the race itself. Now, they might test for 2 or 3 hours in the morning, but they can certainly look forward to their afternoons being filled with picking apart that race data that's been gathered for that day, or completing those exciting STEM-related
A
activities.
vet notebook is like a report card for the dogs and must be carried
Just
at
as
all
the
times.
vet notebook allows for the evaluation of the dog's health, the dreaded principal observation serves as an evaluation tool for educators. But you know, I've never had to fear principal walkthroughs or even the summative evaluations thanks to teaching the Iditarod. In fact, upon spending some lengthy time in my classroom during an Iditarod lesson, one of my former principals did something as simple as left a post-it note on my desk. And it simply said, "Tammy, you give new meaning to the word engagement. Thank you for speaking new life into these students.
Dogs need food.
Mushers must carry their fuel to start
The bottom line is, as educators, it all starts with us. We are the fuel that energizes our students' learning. Ultimately, reminds me of Susan Butcher's quote, "You don't win the Iditarod by making dogs run. You win the Iditarod by making the dogs want to run." I would take the ultimate pride in being the fuel for learners all across the nation. And I thank you for considering me as a 2019 candidate for the Iditarod Teacher on the Trail.
I did